This is a steal for the Grizzlies, as the Memphis Grizzlies organization and the city of Memphis still heartbroken by Jaren Jackson Jr.'s injury. There's now a question as to what the Grizzlies should do next. There are plenty of big fish out there, but one name that we'll go over in particular that I think would be an absolute slam dunk for the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll go over that in just a moment, but what's going on, everybody? Jared Alator here for another episode of Grizzlies Digest for your 4th of July holiday weekend. Hope you're having fun, but also being safe out there. I don't want to hear about any firework-related injuries come next week, so hope y'all are being safe out there. Before we get into the content, just want to remind you that 89% of you watch these videos, you're engaging, but you're just not subscribing to the channel. What's going on? But 11% of you that do, thank you so much. We're so close to reaching our 1K subscriber goal, and that's just so we can expand for more fan engaging content, expanding all over social media, maybe some live streams once we get into the preseason, regular season. We'll see about that once we get closer to that, but so much to expand upon for Grizzlies Digest, one of the best channels for Grizzlies content out there on YouTube. So thank you so much to all the OGs and to everyone else joining the Grizzlies Digest family. Your support does not go unnoticed, and we'll get into the content right now, and that's why Nick Richards, it's about Nick Richards, who is kind of in an awkward situation right now because the Suns, they drafted Malawach from Duke, but they also got another guy on draft night. That was Mark Williams. So the Suns and Nick Richards are kind of in a awkward place right now, and the Suns making decisions on draft night that just really didn't make sense to me. I mean, it's fine that I get you want to draft a Malawach. I think that's a great addition. I think he could be a great shot blocker. I think he's going to grow in this league. I think there's some potential for him. And for Mark Williams, I mean, he failed a physical. That's why that he couldn't trade. He couldn't get traded to the Lakers, for Dalton Connect. So that is a bit interesting. So we'll see kind of what the argument is for Memphis getting him and then for Phoenix Suns keeping him. But I just think the Phoenix Suns are in a very, very awkward situation right now. But this is from Abbas Bokhari, if I just botched that up. But that's from the Grizzlies fan-sided page, the Beale Street Bears. They say the Grizzlies will need to add more depth to their front court before the start of the season. And they go into Richards and kind of what he's done this past season with the Hornets and Suns because he was traded in the middle of the year. Richards averaged 9.3 points, 8.2 rebounds, and nearly 1 assist per game on a solid 63.4 true shooting percentage. Richards proved to be an efficient scorer inside the arc as he shot 59.4% on twos and 74.4% from the free throw line. Although Richards has deficiencies as a shot creator and playmaker, he's still a solid finisher as a cutter and a rollman, making him a big fit for Tuomas Iisalo's offense, and that's where Edey's presence is missed. I think on the offensive end, Edey he is a pick and roll slasher. I think he's a perfect pick and roll slasher just for his 7'4" frame. I also think Richards is a more athletic guy that can do more in the air than a guy like Edey. Of course, Edey, his defensive presence is very well noticed. I mean, you don't want to. I hate to compare Richards to Edey, but you have a guy like Richards who can shoot the ball, in the paint whenever he needs to, and he can knock it down at a pretty good clip. That's something Edey doesn't do a whole lot. Most of his buckets are going to come from right underneath the basket. So I think Richards can add a little bit more inside paint shooting, but I also think that Richards can be a threat from a slasher, a cutter, a rollman. And that's here. Nick Richards recorded a negative or minus 1.3 defensive BPM this season and a minus 0.7 defensive BPM for his career. However, it's reasonable to expect Richards to improve a little bit defensively around a more reliable set of perimeter defenders in Memphis compared to his previous teams. Richards is also a reliable defensive rebounder and also adds defensive playmaking upside through shot blocking and drawing charges. And for Richards, I think he could be a phenomenal addition, especially to what we're dealing with now. For Santi Aldama, he's going to have to step into that starting 4 role. And I know y'all don't feel comfortable about starting Jay Huff or Marvin Bagley or Brendan Clark for that matter. Who knows whenever he's going to get back. I think he'll be fine for the regular season, but we still don't really know what the future looks like with BC, because there's a lot of trade talks involving BC and Konchar and Vince Williams. Like, what's the future for those three guys? Could they be involved in such a trade for Nick Richards or for someone else soon? Because the Grizzlies badly need a big man right now. And as much as I like DeAndre Ayton about how he could have been a phenomenal addition to Memphis, I thought, but it wouldn't have made sense just because the Memphis Grizzlies are just looking for someone to hold the fort down for the first 2.5 months of the regular season. And I think by that time, you should see one of Jaren Jackson Jr. or Zach Edey come back. So what are we thinking about? So season starting in late October. Then you got late November. So then mid-January, yeah, you think one of those guys has to be back by then. And then Nick Richards, who's playing some of the best ball of his career, scoring, rebounding the basketball. I think he did a phenomenal job this year. I think he's reaching his peak right now. But I think a guy like Richards knows his role. He knows that he can start in a bunch of games, but he can also start on the bench for plenty of games. I think he knows his role, and I think that's why he's a perfect fit for Memphis. I think other names that people are throwing out there, Goga Bitadze could be like one of those threats that could help Memphis for at least the first couple of months of the regular season. And he knows, again, a guy like Goga Bitadze knows his role. He's mostly been a backup big guy his whole career, and that's all we're asking. For the first 2.5 months, maybe 3 of the regular season, just someone to hold that fort down at the 5 spot. Because you don't feel good about Bagley doing it or Huff doing it, at least in a starting role. I don't mind if BC or Bagley or Huff stay, but it's just a matter of if they can really take on those starting minutes. And that's what I think is a big concern for Memphis. So, finishing up the article here, Nick Richards has 1 year remaining on his current deal and is set to make $5 million for the upcoming season. The Grizzlies could easily build a trade package centered around future second-round picks or players such as Vince Williams Jr. or John Konchar, like we just talked about. Although Richards does not project as a long-term starter in Memphis, he would be reliable depth, and a good emergency option while Jackson Jr. and Edey are able to recover. I think that hits the nail right on the head there. And a bit more about Richards and his stats. And you could see he's been growing pretty much every year. Drafted in 2020. Didn't play that much in the 2020 / 2021 season. And then you go into this 2022-2023 season, and he starts to get a little bit more action, playing more games. And then since 2023, the beginning of the 2023-24 season, he's been playing regularly on the court. And for Phoenix, I thought he did a phenomenal job. And with Charlotte, I thought he did a great job as a roll man or a cutter. And we'll take a look at some of those highlights right now as you see him right there. A threat to jam the basketball off a lob. You see it right there with a one-hand finish, up high, coming down hard. The nice finish there, getting the feed from LaMelo Ball. He'll throw it down again. And again, this is kind of what you're expecting. You're not really expecting, well, that was a pretty athletic play. You're not really expecting too much flashiness from him or really any glitz or glamour. You're just looking for him to be an average defender. He doesn't even need to be like a whole superstar defender. Just be a nice cutting man. It's kind of weird how I said that, but just be an available, solid cutter for Ja Morant. I mean, he can get you the ball. If you cut off a pick and roll, he's going to get you the ball. And just like what I think we're going to see from Zach Edey unleashed in his second year and third year and fourth year, I think he's going to be a beast from here on out. Just by being that pick and roll man that he was at Purdue. And I think that Tuomas is going to unleash Edey in a way that no one is expecting. The rest of the NBA, they're not expecting it. And for Richards, I think that he can be that similar role set. Obviously, Richards a lot shorter. He's not going to be the not going to be the same defensive guy that Edey will be. But as long as Richards is able to contribute just a little bit on the court in scoring wise, I think the Grizzlies could be in a good spot for at least for the first couple months of the regular season. So that's a little bit more about Richards. This is John Gambadoro, a longtime sports radio host in the Phoenix area. He says the Suns have gotten calls on Nick Richards from several teams. Not sure if they would move him. They do like him, and he would be a good insurance for Mark Williams should they keep him. So obviously, I think that there's a move to be made for Memphis. Don't know if it's going to be Nick Richards. I think it'd be a home run move if they do sign Richards. But for the Suns, they're in a really awkward spot right now with Malawach, Williams, and then Nick Richards. I don't know how that's going to work out. I mean, the Phoenix Suns, I don't want to turn this into Suns Digest, but they really did screw up their future with that whole Kevin Durant trade they made over 2 years ago. And now they got to move things around. You know, Kevin Durant now with Houston. Bradley Beal, I mean, he played some of the worst basketball I've seen him play this year. He looked completely unplayable at times. I don't know what's going on with Phoenix, but they need to solve some things soon. But maybe we can reach out and say, hey, let's give you a couple of second rounds, maybe a couple of guys here or there. We'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for this video. Jared Alatorre for Grizzlies Digest. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, you can like this video, comment on this video, share this video, leave a comment down below what you think about Nick Richards and his fit potentially with the Memphis Grizzlies. Hope you have a good 4th of July weekend. We'll see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.